We'll get started in 1 second. I do have to send a quick email to all of our registrants because the URL just decided to change, so everyone can bear with me for 1 second.
All right.
All right, we are now streaming to all the right places. This is the fun of live TV, isn't it? It's doing things on the fly.
Okay. It's one of those weeks, Josh.
It is one of those weeks, and I think a lot of people will... so I'm sending an email right now saying new details, and we're going to send this right now so that everyone has the latest information. Yes, you were just saying that it's been one of those weeks that creeps up on you. There's no there's no preparation. There's it kind of all just happens all at once, right?
Yeah. If you want to play around with what you've got to do, I'll just I'll talk a little bit. So I think what's interesting this week, and thank you so much, Josh, for hosting this webinar. The reason why I pretty much emailed Josh like yesterday. And
Yeah, it was immediately, yeah.
30 seconds, he was like, let's do it. And I said, I think we need to do an emergency webinar because of what we're seeing, which we've never seen before, which is a number of visa revocations. And
Yeah, so
before.
I'll jump in because I've sorted everything out. So here we go. I want to put the disclaimer and things and do this properly. So hi everyone, I'm America Josh. Sorry about that little technical disruption. As Zjantelle was just saying, Zjantelle emailed me yesterday and was like, I think this would be a really good topic to get on because I know a lot of information spreads very quickly. And one of the things that, Zjantelle, you are known for, and one of the things that I love about you is it's clearing up the nonsense. It's making sure that people have good information, reliable information. And so you were incredibly quick to get onto this. So thank you very much. I do want to start by making a quick disclaimer because this is a super sensitive topic. So the information in this presentation is provided for general information purposes only and does not constitute legal advice, professional advice, or personal guidance. It is of a general nature and does not take into account your individual objectives, circumstances, or needs. You should not rely on this information as a substitute for obtaining specific legal or professional advice. Before making any decision or taking any action in relation to your particular circumstances, we strongly recommend that you seek advice from a qualified legal professional. Neither Zjantelle Cammisa Markel, Josh, nor America Josh accept any responsibility or liability for any loss arising from the reliance on the information provided in this presentation. I know that is all very legal. I'm sure it's part of your world, but this is a crazy topic. I know I've had just like you, I'm sure you've dealt with this absolutely intensely over the last few days. I've had a whole array of emails and people on Facebook asking questions about what's real, what's not. So again, thank you very much for coming on here. This is a Q&A. It's not legal advice, but we wanted to give the big picture of what the hell's going on so that people had something to hold on to. And as you were just alluding to, this will be added to over the course of the next few days and weeks as we learn more. If anything comes to light, we will absolutely get you back on, Zjantelle, to jump in. So, to start off, how about a bit of context about what you've seen, what's come on your desk in the last couple of days?
The first thing I want to say before, just because the message that I want to get across, I think it's very important in case, if someone even watches the recording or whatever it is, that they get at least this much. If you have ever had an arrest related to a DUI or controlled substance or any alcohol-related offence before in your past, and you're on a non-immigrant visa, doesn't matter if it's an E-3, O1, H1B, doesn't matter what class of non-immigrant visa, I would talk to your immigration attorney before travelling internationally right now. So I think that's the most important message. If you've got had an arrest, a DUI, do not travel internationally until you've spoken to your immigration lawyer.
Excellent. So that's the takeaway. That's the one overarching thing of everything.
Yeah. Big takeaway. I wanted to get it in right up front.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so what's actually happened? I think a lot of context, because I know there's some people that are watching because they're like, oh my God, I either got one, I saw them. Some people haven't even heard about what's going on. So let's start at the very beginning.
Yeah, so those people that haven't heard what's going on is really great, and they're probably whistle clean, But in any event, so what we're seeing happening, which in my 26 years of doing this, have not seen on a scale like this before, is that anyone who has had a DUI, an arrest related to a controlled substance or an alcohol related offence. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a DUI. It could be, so we have someone that had a drunken disorderly conduct charge who actually never went to court. It was a ticket. People are either getting an email that their visa has been revoked or prudentially revoked. There's two sets of language.
Yep.
Or people are getting their visas revoked without notification. And I know you're going to ask about that, but we're seeing it. The reason why I wanted to do this webinar and that it's different to what I've ever seen before is that these revocations have always been around, right? Like the consulate can prudentially revoke your visa if new information comes to light after you last did your last visa. If you have a new arrest or a new DUI, then your visa does get revoked. And usually people either find out by email, but usually not in those circumstances. Usually they travel internationally, and then when they're trying to re-enter, that's when they find out that their visa has been revoked. But historically, that is when that's happened to a client, the arrest, the DUI, the substance-related offense, a controlled substance-related offense, typically happened after they had got their last visa. And then, so it made sense, right? So my first question to the clients that started contacting me initially, oh, my visa's been revoked. My first question was, since you last got your visa, have you been arrested for any DUI offense for controlled substance? And what I was seeing more frequently was no, not since I got my last visa. My DUI was from a long time ago, or the offense was from a long time ago. No, just that one that we already addressed in our visa interview. So what I'm seeing here is that they are doing the government is revoking people's visas and or prudentially revoking people's visas for arrests that have happened even before the person's last visa was issued. So I think that's why I really wanted to make sure that people are aware of that. Oh, I can't hear you, Josh.
Sorry, these are people that have most likely actually declared this, like they've included this as part of their application, and so they've been approved after telling the government that?
Correct. So even I can name 4 clients right now off the top of my head that I've been dealing with this week who all disclosed in their last visa application that they had a DUI or a controlled substance issue. The controlled substance issue was even dismissed. They were never convicted of that, but that person also got an email notifying him that his visa has been revoked. So yes, it's not just people that have not disclosed it, if that makes sense.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it is people. Yeah. So it is people that have either not, and it's come to light in some way, or it's people that have told them as part of the disclosure that you would have been a part of. And sorry, I know you started with this, but I know one of the Facebook ones that I saw was around a driving offence, but you're seeing things outside of driving offences. It's just, is there a particular class of action that is leading to it, or is it a particular group of?
So I think that's what's also interesting. So the prudential revocations typically deal with an offence related to a DUI. The government can prudentially revoke anyone's visa as if there's been a DUI. But we're seeing revocations also related to any arrest that was related to a controlled substance or an alcohol-related offence that was not a DUI as well. And I think that the way that the government is able to do that is because if there is reason to believe, so the government is saying new information has come to light that makes us believe that you might be inadmissible to the United States and therefore we're revoking your visa. So there has to be a ground of inadmissibility for that to happen. So they're putting this under the health-related grounds of inadmissibility. So if someone is a habitual drunkard or a drug abuser, then they could be inadmissible under the health-related grounds of inadmissibility because the government could say, well, we deem you to be dangerous to property, yourself, or others. And so if the government deems that, then you could be considered inadmissible.
Got it. And so traditionally you'd seen something quite narrow about how they interpreted that, and now we're seeing something that is, as you said in your time, like just a much broader interpretation. So nothing's sort of changed in legislation. It's not like something happened that led to this. It's more a wider interpretation of how that works.
Yes, but the thing is, typically it will happen after someone's been arrested, right, recently, and then
Right.
they'll tell us, oh, my visa's been revoked, and I
Got
can know, oh, you must have got arrested recently.
Sure.
But I'm seeing a sweeping happen here to
Yeah.
lots of clients that have DUIs that happened in 2022, 2019, 2004, you know, so it's like there's a sweep happening, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
right. Okay, so they're sort of going through the full list of, and so far the categories of visa are these working visas. Is that right? That's the
All
focus on
non-immigrant visas.
all non-immigrant visas. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's not just working, and are there any? I know we had a few questions about green cards. Have any of them been in that space?
None of our clients that have a green card have, because they can't revoke a visa. That's an immigrant visa, and typically they're not. I mean, could they say we think you're inadmissible and therefore you shouldn't have been given your green card, and so we're intending to revoke your green card? Sure, I haven't seen that yet, and I hope I don't.
Sure.
Because that would not be nice to happen or to
happen,
have to
yeah.
yeah. But
Okay.
right now, no, we're only seeing it with non-immigrant visas at the moment.
Okay, so you're not. It's nothing. So if you don't have, let's start at the very beginning. If you don't have any, is it like, how broad is it? Like court related? I know that there's some questions coming in around, like, you know, what if you're arrested but never convicted and the case has been sealed? Like, sort of how nuanced is it?
Great question. So it doesn't. So if you were arrested. So the question in the DS 160 is a great way to how to look at this, right? So I'm just going to put my glasses on because I'm blind. So if I read the DS 160 question, the question is, have you ever been arrested, convicted for any offence or crime, even though subject to a pardon, amnesty, or other similar action, right? Then there's another question that says, have you ever violated or anyway, I'm not going to read the rest, but any law related to controlled substances. So the question here is, or are you, or have you ever been a drug abuser or addict? So they could deem, and depending on the answer to those, could lead you to be deemed as inadmissible, right? So anyone that has been arrested, even though subject to a pardon later or it's been expunged, is still coming up as someone who potentially could be an alcoholic or a drug user because they had the charge. So typically what's happening is they're revoking the visas. And I know this is a question coming up, but I'll lead into it, which is the reason they're revoking the visas is they want people to go out of the country, redo the visa process, and have that person revetted, redo a medical to then determine that the person's not a drug addict or an alcoholic, so that person can be let back into the country.
Got it. And that's a good segue into, if you are currently in the country and you receive this, what changes for you right now?
Yeah. So it's the reason why I wanted to tell people to not travel internationally right now if they've got any indiscretions in their past is because as soon as you leave the US, that's when the visa is technically cancelled and you can't get back in. If you're physically in the US right now, while your visa will get cancelled when you leave, right now your status is still intact. So it gives you time. If you get that email saying your visa has been revoked, you have time to calmly contact your immigration attorney and figure out your next steps as to when you're going to go to the consulate abroad, because that's how you have to fix it, and fix it. But you can remain in the United States without international travel up until the point that you're deciding you're going to fix it. So you're actually very fortunate if you're in the United States and you find out that your visa has been revoked through an email. Not everyone is getting that email though. So that's why I'm saying don't travel if you have one of those discretions, even if you haven't got the email, because we had a situation where someone traveled, they were inadmissible, they were stopped from boarding the plane, and it was 2 days later that the email came through. So
it's already gone through the system, it just hasn't got to the notification part, basically.
Exactly. That's right.
So yes, it is basically, stay in the country, speak to your immigration attorney. Basically, you want to be, as I imagine, that, just to say it out loud, there's no risk in speaking to an immigration attorney. You should be as verbose as possible. Is that right? Like, you want to just be like completely honest, tell them everything.
Yeah. So when we do consultations, Josh, even before this happened, actually, I ask people, have you ever had a DUI? Have you ever been arrested? What about, and people, because we have an intake sheet, people always put no on the intake sheet. But then when you say, what about even just like for drunk and disorderly, that people just don't think is relevant?
Like, oh yeah, I did have an arrest.
It was one time this open container or public urination, and then you're like, okay, I need to know this. So you want to be as forthcoming with your immigration attorney as possible, because that's the only way they're going to be able to deal with your scenario, knowing the full facts. So then you can go into your subsequent consular application fully prepared with everything that you need to have a successful outcome at the back end of that, to be able to get back into the country.
So there is a pathway, and I think that's a really important one. If you have received one of these, or if you're worried about receiving one and you do receive one, there is still a pathway in. It's you sort of your speculation or your idea is that like it's a revetting. It's not a like we are cutting you off and you can never come back.
Correct. It's a revetting. And unless when you go to get revetted, they deem that you're inadmissible, in which case there would be one of two outcomes, depending on the section that they find you inadmissible under. If it's fraud or misrepresentation, then it can take a very, very long time and almost never to maybe even get back. But if they're find you inadmissible under another section, typically you can apply for a waiver, but that can take up to 8 months to get approved right now to then get back in. But most people, I'm gathering, it's a simple DUI. They probably dealt with it at the last interview, or if they didn't, it's most of our clients, the situation in which their visas are getting revoked, the offence is not one that would make them inadmissible. So I do feel confident that most of these revocations, the people will be able to go to the consulate abroad, reapply for the visa, and do a medical, which is what's going to happen. And that's what has historically happened when it was a recent arrest. You know, I was able to say to clients, don't worry, you're going to do the visa again. You're going to have to go do a medical. What I'm advising people now, though, is if you're going to go to your consulate appointment, I think you should have all of the documents related to that arrest available to you, because otherwise it's going to waste time when you go to your consulate.
Because they're going to probably ask for it. They know about it clearly.
That's right. So you should prepare these documents already from now. Get the court, and most importantly, the court disposition. The other thing they're going to want to look at, because a lot of people will enter a guilty plea to get a good criminal result for their offence. A criminal attorney might say, just plead guilty, because then we can get these charges dismissed and it will later be expunged. The issue is that the consulate will want to see the plea that was entered, because if you enter a guilty plea under immigration law is exactly the same as a conviction. So now, even though it's expunged and it's been off your record, you have an admission to the elements of the crime, and it's exactly like a conviction. So you just, in that instance, you absolutely want to be talking to your immigration attorney to determine, how to approach that at the consulate appointment.
Okay, so just so I really make sure I understand, the people that are being swept up in this are the people that on the DS-160 would have said yes. That's like all of them. Then like the US government isn't finding things outside of that. It's that they're reassessing what was already known to them. Is that correct?
I think it can be both, actually, because a prudential revocation that happens when someone, so when we were the typical prudential revocation, the person has not disclosed it at their previous consulate. Actually, that hasn't happened yet.
Sorry, prudential, do you mind just quickly defining, because you were saying there were two types, there's prudential and there's revocation. Do you mind just defining what that means actually first?
Yeah, it's a little bit complicated.
Sure.
I don't want to go into the semantics, but the consulate can revoke someone's visa if they believe that someone is inadmissible, which is a revocation, and they deem that the person's inadmissible based on health or medical incapacity grounds. Because alcoholism could be a health-related ground as to either being alcoholism, or it could be deemed a mental disorder as well, and substance abuse can be deemed that as well. And then prudential revocations are typically only with respect to DUIs and alcohol-related offences. And those prudential revocations generally deal with an offence that happened in the last 5 years. So the consulate can say, okay, so they can go back 5 years, or it could be something that's happened recently after your last visa application. So you're in the US, you went and did your visa application in November last year, and now you were driving in New Jersey last weekend and you get a DUI, your visa will be revoked, and you might not even know about it, actually, because they might not email you about it. This is the way it typically happens. They don't even email you about it. You travel internationally, and then when you're trying to get back in, you
suddenly can't.
Not allowed to board the plane.
Yeah, okay. So it's a good point. So if it happens, so outside of all of what's happened in the last week, if you ever get arrested, if you have any issues with the law at all, you should speak to your immigration attorney before leaving the country, because that is just a sweeping rule that is always been the case if you've interacted with the law and you're on a non-immigrant visa or an immigrant visa, but you should really speak to your immigration attorney as a matter of course. But now we're seeing this extended version, which is that they're going back through documentation. That's the unique difference about this change now. How does this affect, I know we've already talked about sort of being in the country, but spouses and E3D dependents at the moment?
Very important. So if you have a DUI and you have dependents, family members here, don't let them travel either.
Okay.
Even if they are clean and have never had a DUI or an arrest or anything, because the family members' visas are completely hanging on the principal E3 visa holder's visa. So we have I'll give an example which happened this week. So we have a family who the husband is on the E3 visa, the wife is E3D, and they have 2 children on E3Ds. The wife took I'm going to change the facts a little bit so it's
sure,
not...
Sure, please, yes, do.
But, the wife took one of the children abroad to do a semester of schooling outside the country and to the UK. And then the wife left the kid there and said, I'm going to go back to the US and then come back to pick that kid up. So as she went to the airport to board her flight, the officer said, your visa has been revoked. You can't get on the plane. At that point in time, we did not know if her visa was revoked because of her husband's DUI, which had happened in 2022, or if it was because she had travelled to Cuba in 2011. So I was like, okay, it's one of these 2 things. 2 days later, the husband and her both received the email from the consulate at which they processed their previous visa, saying that their visas had been revoked, not prudentially revoked, revoked.
Okay.
So now we knew that it was because of the husband's DUI.
Yep.
Now we know that she and her son will not be able to get back into the US until there are a couple of options here available. So just you can't, but typically you would have to fix the husband's status for the rest of the family to get back in, unless the rest of the family have their own independent means of getting their own visa that's not hinging on the principal to get back in. But as you can see, this can turn into a massive mess. This particular person was
so quickly
medical treatment in the US as well, so needs to get back into the US pretty immediately, and so it can become very, very messy. And so don't let your dependent spouse or children.
So nobody should travel.
And I feel like such a Debbie Downer because normally I get on these webinars, Josh, and I'm like, everything's fine, everything's great.
So it's really interesting that you say that. I've been saying that today because normally I'm the one that goes to you and says, should we do something? And you're like, it's not as big an issue as you're making it out to be. Don't worry about it. And this time it was like, things are changing. Like it is one that you need to be all aware of this, especially for spouses, especially for dependents.
Yeah.
Just making sure that everyone stays in the country.
I think the reason why I felt it was very important is because while there is a solution, right, we can get people back in the country, it's not immediate, right? So this particular
you need to plan.
person, her birthday was actually the next day too. She thought that it's okay, we can, normally it's like, it's okay, I can fix it. That's my usual response, but it's okay, we can fix it, but it's going to take possibly a month, right?
Yeah, okay.
Which is really stressful for a lot of people.
No, it is. And ideally you've got a bit of time left on your status so you can really get to meet with you and talk it through and plan it out. I know we've got a few questions coming in and I want to keep in mind the time. What about if you paid a fine for, someone said, what about a speeding fine?
Yep,
if you didn't get arrested, is that they're fine?
Speeding fines are not an issue, but speeding fines can be an issue separately when you go to your visa appointment. If you have not paid your speeding fine, there can be a bench warrant for your arrest that you're unaware of and can become problematic when you go to your next visa renewal or whatever it is.
So make sure you pay it.
Any speeding fines, as long as you pay the ticket, then it's not an issue. You're not going to get That's not going to revoke your visa, as far as I have not seen that yet.
Currently, yes.
But, yeah.
Is this just for US incidents, or is it like if you the speeding? No. So it doesn't matter where it happened; it can
Correct.
impact.
The incident or offence can have happened anywhere. We're seeing it having happened anywhere.
Okay.
Not just Australians as well, right? So
say again. Sorry.
This is not happening only to Australians either.
100%. Yes. Yeah.
Nationality. Yeah.
Yeah. To confirm, if you are in the country and if your visa is revoked, you maintain legal status to be here and to work. Is that correct?
Yes, because your status is still valid, so you can still continue working. Yes.
Yep. If the person does need to go, like when they're going to redo their visa, and I know this is an adjacent topic, but is this going back to Australia and doing, like they have to go back to Australia and fully redo the process in most cases?
Yes, if they're Australian, they should be going back to Australia. If they're a different nationality, they should go to their home of their country.
Go to their residence or citizenship. Cool.
Yes, because another consulate, once your visa's been revoked, typically does not want to touch your application.
Right. So this is so even if you're hearing that some people are like getting permission in other country, whatever people might have heard, this one's especially a case where you should go back to your
100%.
home country. Yeah. Okay. This one's don't mess around with this. This is not okay.
What you were saying before, I think, after September when it was announced that people should go home to their home country to do their visas, it's a very fine analysis of whether you go to a different consulate or not, like whether you have that other passport or whether you have someone like a spouse with you.
Yes, yeah.
Things like that. So I just want to nip that in the bud of people saying, oh, my friend went to London,
Sure.
my friend went to blah, blah, I'm just going to go there. You will hear I've had people come to me after the fact and go, oh, well, I went there because my friend went there. And I'm like, yeah, but you have this, this, and this in your case, like why you should not have gone there.
Yes, right.
So people should be following the general rule of going back to Australia unless they've had an analysis by an immigration attorney that can decide for them that, yes, they could go to a different consulate.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you're not seeking the advice of an immigration attorney, then make sure if you're Australian, you go back to Australia to do it.
Got it. If you're in the country, is an extension of status or a change of status a possibility for you after a revocation of a visa?
It is, technically, but you're just going to be trapped here.
Got it. So yes, you won't have the visa.
What could happen is that when you file the extension of stay or change of status, they might say, we've been notified that you potentially are inadmissible. So if they could deny it. They could deny the extension or change of status if they want to determine whether you're inadmissible or not.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's the same for an adjustment of status. So it's going to be very interesting to see. We have some situations like this where we will be just filing adjustment of statuses, which means a green card case. It'll be interesting to see, how
that plays out.
Yeah. Are they going to say, we want to know whether you're inadmissible or not? And then will they deal with that?
Got it.
Internally, or make the person go abroad to deal with it? We'll know because we're doing it.
Yeah. So outside of the email notification, I know we've talked about like sometimes the email notification is not reliable and like you might not actually get it. Is there any way for someone to log in and check on their status, just to check their visa, like their not their status, sorry, their visa currentness?
There is not a way for an individual to check themselves on any system for whether their visa has been revoked.
Got it. And there's no there's no source. I know one of the questions that just came in was like there is no source of information. Oh, look at that. So where is this new information coming from? Why have they suddenly rolled this out and where can we read about it? Is there a particular space that we can actually see? Like but nothing's changed, right? Like nothing actually documentarily has changed.
Yeah, there's been no announcement.
No announcement, yeah.
I think this just comes under the extreme vetting, right? And I think it's coming under if anyone's ever been arrested, cited, charged, we want to revet them. I think that's where this is coming from.
Yeah, okay.
But there's an announcement that has said that is addressing this particular scenario.
Yeah, cool. And I know, I don't want to speculate, and I know you don't want to, but in saying that, we don't have any suggestion that this is, one part of more extreme vetting. We really don't have an idea exactly of what the change is substantially.
Correct. But yeah, as soon as we see anything else, we'll let you know for sure.
No, okay. I know, is there anything else, I feel like we've worked through quite a number of questions and half an hour flies by, and so we've sort of got the nuts and bolts. is there anything else that you sort of, apart from the idea of like people shouldn't be leaving the country, they really should be staying put. We want to make sure that they like speak to their immigration attorneys. They keep all their family in place while we're here. Is there anything else that people should be sort of taking away from this or keeping an eye out for?
I think just, so the process will involve going to get a new visa, right? To pretty much correct this. That's the way you're going to fix it and then be able to travel in and out of the US. I think what people need to be cautious of, because we do have some clients that have multiple visas in their passport. So we have clients that will have an E3 and a B1, B2, or we have one client that has an E3 and an O1 because the person has multiple jobs. One as a musician, so when they're performing in their band, they need to be on the O1, and when they're an executive, they need to be on the E3. So if your visa is revoked and you go to the consulate and they deem that it was a valid revocation of that visa, they will revoke the other one as well. So people should know that then they might be having to do 2 new visa applications, not just 1.
So don't rely on the fact that you've got another one. You can say like that one was revoked. I'll just come back in on the other one. If it's
correct,
valid revocation, then okay. Zjantelle Cammisa Markel, principal attorney from Cammisa Markel. I can't thank you enough. I know there's probably like still so many people have like lots of questions. We've gotten through like a really good amount of the ones that are coming through, and
I'm happy to give an extra 5 minutes if you want to.
Yeah,
any questions. It's up to you.
I think DUIs are definitely something to look out for. If you have to leave the country, know that the second you leave the country, you will lose your status and therefore you will have to go through this process. So no matter what the circumstances, I know there's a question around, I've got a special circumstance where I have to leave the country.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't matter. Like unfortunately, it doesn't matter.
If you have to leave the country, your visa will be cancelled as soon as you leave the country. It doesn't matter. Like this woman didn't even know, right?
Yep.
The dependent spouse that left and was unable to get back in because her visa was revoked, she had to travel.
Yep. No, got it.
She has to get back into the US for her medical treatment too.
Yes. So you've got special circumstances, and we've still seen that it's being like really it's being held to.
You can't, try and ask for an exemption of your visa being revoked to be able to just travel in this instance, and then can you make this effective later? No, that's not going to work. Got
it. And for the purposes of the reapplication, I just want to really round it out as we finish up here. A revocation is the same, like I guess, as like your visa expiring and going through the whole process again, right? Like there might be more, I say same in the sense of like, there might be some more adjudications and there might be some more details that you have to work through. But from a process perspective of applying, it is a fully new application. You have to go.
Fully new application. And sorry, I did before say you should take your court documents and dispositions of everything that happened related to the offence. The other thing that I would like to recommend people to do is also get a recent police certificate as well.
Okay.
That hopefully shows that there has not been anything since the offence that they think is the one causing the problem.
Got it. And if anyone wants to speak to you and ask any questions, what's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, our email probably is the easiest way, info, I-N-F-O, @Cammisa Markel, 2 M's in the Cammisa, 1 S. That's an error sometimes people make. So C-A, 2 M's, M-M-I.
It's printed on, it's printed below your name. Yeah.
There we go.
Yep.
CammisaMarkel.com. Info @CammisaMarkel.com.
Awesome. And
questions here. Someone's asked, is it a risky time to switch jobs on an E3? No.
Yep. So broadly, we haven't seen any evidence outside of this particular, like having offences. Nothing's changed with the visa.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. All right. I am going to end it there because I want to make sure that we give the best opportunity. Zjantelle, I can't thank you enough. I know that we worked through a lot of information, and as I said, if anything new comes to light, I will absolutely reconnect with you. But thank you very much.
Okay. Good luck.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.